So great to have all of you here tonight. We're so glad that you can be a part of this call. Um, really excited to talk about how to help support your brain tonight. So tonight, we are going to be talking about, hang on, I'm going to share my screen here. There we are. So we're going to be talking about how to improve our memory and our focus. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart because I have ADHD. And so, and I have my grandfather suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's. So this is something that I really care about, and I really want to help other people be able to avoid the effects of both of those issues. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those at the end. Please, you can either write them in the box in the chat box, or just remember them, and I'd love to answer them at the end. Okay. So my purpose, this is important. So what I want, sorry, I'm gonna have to, there we go. What I want is to empower you to be able to take care of yourself. That is my biggest desire. This is something I'm passionate about, is being able to help people understand how they can take care of themselves and have a good, healthy, long life. So let's hop in and talk about what Alzheimer's is. So Alzheimer's, there are a couple things that are seen in the brain when we have Alzheimer's. There's a part of the brain called the hippocampus, and the hippocampus will shrink in size when someone has Alzheimer's, or even mild cognitive impairment. As you can see up here in the right-hand corner, the normal brain's on the right. When you start to get some impairment, the activity, so the red color is the brain activity that is represented by neurons firing. These are actually functional MRIs showing what's happening in the brain. And the, excuse me, the hippocampus, as you can see, gets smaller and smaller as the person goes further and further into Alzheimer's. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this today, but it's Alzheimer's is being dubbed more recently type 3 diabetes. It is called that because the brain stops being able to metabolize sugars the way that it's supposed to, so that it can function. And another thing that is a hallmark of Alzheimer's is what's called neurofibril tangles, which is basically deposition plaque that's built up in the brain that stops neurons from firing properly. So these are kind of hallmark signs of Alzheimer's. Now, the interesting thing about Alzheimer's is that it doesn't just start. We'll see people when they're in their 70s, 80s, even sometimes late 60s, that start to have signs of Alzheimer's, but the development of Alzheimer's actually starts 20 to 30 years before you actually see any symptoms. So why does that matter? Whatever stage you're in, you want to try and limit the effects of Alzheimer's. And even if you're not having those effects right now, there's a lot you can do to be able to help yourself not have those effects. So we're going to talk about some of these things, and these are all very well researched. So first is physical activity, healthy foods, mental exercise, supplements, gamma music, and then sleep. And so we're going to go in that order. So first of all, if you want to have the greatest effect to decrease your incidence of Alzheimer's, contracting Alzheimer's, or seeing the effects of Alzheimer's, this is straight from the United Kingdom's Alzheimer's Society. They found this was a meta-analysis, that people who exercised at least 3 times a week for moderate exercise, I'm talking aerobic exercise, they actually decreased their risk of contracting Alzheimer's by 45%. That is the single most important thing that you can take away if you're going to take away anything from this class tonight. If you want to almost half your chance of developing Alzheimer's, you need to be working out on a regular basis, and specifically aerobic exercise. That's going to help basically clean out the brain. It's going to clean out all the excess fibrils and other things that are damaging to the brain. It also decreases the incidence of dementia by 28%. So if you want to, like I said, if you take nothing else out of this class tonight, I put this very first because I want you to know exercise is the most important factor. Okay. The next most important factor is what you eat. And so what we eat has a huge impact. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. I have a little cold, as you can tell. But what we eat has a huge impact on how our brain functions. Healthy fats, such as those found in nuts, are extremely helpful in allowing the brain to work to function its best. In fact, walnuts are one of the best nuts that you can have for brain because they have omega oils in them. Now, why do we need those oils? Well, what they do is they actually coat all of your nerves and your neurons in your brain. So anytime you have a synapse, meaning a nerve or a nerve ending firing from one end to the other, you have to have fat covering those cells in order for that message to be transmitted. So healthy fats like nuts are a great way to be able to help support yourself. Blueberries and other berries are great for antioxidants, right? You can even do cranberries. You can do lots of different berries are going to have high amounts of antioxidants, which have been shown to be very helpful in decreasing the effects of Alzheimer's. Also, leafy greens. So we're thinking dark leafy greens. So any kales, spinach, even lettuce are going to be helpful in decreasing your symptoms or decreasing the chance of you even developing symptoms of Alzheimer's. Another thing that you can do is brain training exercises. And this is cool. This has been developed within the last, probably 5 to 7 years. But these are just 2 examples of apps that you can use to help train your brain. And I'm going to show you some research that has been done on brain training games, but they've been shown to increase your memory and attention. And when you do them actively, we're talking a couple times a week, then you can increase your memory and have that increase last for 3 months, which is really significant. So these are 2 apps that you can find on either the Apple App Store or Android. There we go. Excuse me, Android App Store. I will tell you that the Peak Brain Training, they actually have a free version of that. Both of these have a paid version, but Peak has a free version. It will not so if you do the paid version, it will try and find exercises that are going to be specifically helpful to you. They'll find out what you're weak in, and it'll help train you and exercise your brain more. If you do the free version, it'll just give you a smattering of lots of different games to try out. But these are both great options to help. And here's the research that I was talking about. So back in 2009 to 2011, and then this study, this last one is called the Finger Study, and it's one that's an ongoing study. They keep releasing more and more information. But basically, what they've found is that as people engage in these brain games, that they are able to increase their memory and their cognition. So this is really, really a cool way to be able to help support yourself. Now, minerals and vitamins and supplements. There is very good data that shows that low levels of folate, B6, and B12 are risk factors for developing Alzheimer's. Meaning when they test people that have Alzheimer's, they're low in these 3. So I always recommend taking a great vitamin mineral supplement. This Microplex VMZ is a really, really good one. It has, of the folate, B6, and B12, it has over 100% of what your daily recommendation is. So that's great. But that is super, super helpful. Antioxidants, we talked about blueberries, but there are other things that you can use as antioxidants that also help to take down inflammation in the brain. And alpha CRS is a great supplement to be able to take down that inflammation. Omega oils. So Z omega, I talked about omega oils with nuts. So omega oils, like I said, they help coat all of your nerves and all of your brain cells. So if you don't have fats, if you don't have omega oils, you do not have good transmission happening from your neurons. So those are a couple of supplements that might be helpful to you, or really would be helpful to you. And I will tell you, I take these, all three of these every day. This is my go-to vitamin mineral combo that I take, just to make sure I'm staying on top of things and giving my, not just my brain. This helps with a lot of other things, but for this specific class, it's helpful for the brain. Probiotics. A lot of people don't know this, but when you take a probiotic, there are things that are called BDNFs, brain-derived neurotrophic factors. BDNF, this is basically a cleanup crew in your brain. And probiotics, when you take a probiotic that has one that's specific for the brain, it can help clean up the brain. It can create those BDNFs. It can increase the BDNFs. And when you do that, you're going to have less clutter in the brain. Also, which is kind of interesting and cool, BDNF is found predominantly, like 98% of it is found in the brain and in the digestive tract. So you find it in your digestive system. So when you take this, this is PB Restore. This is one that I take also. When you take this, obviously it's going to go through your digestive tract. You're swallowing it, but you have your BDNFs are produced in your gut and in your brain. And they've shown that when you take one internally, it increases the amount of BDNF that you have in your brain. So something that's really, really cool. This is a fantastic probiotic. It doesn't just help for brain. It also helps for skin and lungs and a whole myriad of issues for probiotics. So that's a great supplement. So here's another one that can be helpful for you. So essential oils. This is really cool. As I was preparing for this presentation, I was not even aware of this research that had been done back in 2020. They subjected, for several weeks, they tested mice with just inhaling lemon oil for, it wasn't even that much time a day. I think it was, 20 minutes a day or something like that. And what they found was the neurofibrillary tangles, the ones that show up with Alzheimer's, they significantly decreased when these mice were inhaling those lemon essential oil, which is really, really cool. So that's awesome. Frankincense is a really good oil that you can, oh, and by the way, so you would use this more aromatically in like a diffuser for this purpose. And then the frankincense is something that I use topically. Not myself right now for brain issues, but I will tell you, my grandfather, who had severe cognitive issues towards the end of his life, I was just barely new to starting to use oils and found out that frankincense is helpful for brain health. And so I started rubbing this on the top of his head. And it was really interesting. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks, he started becoming much more cognizant, much clearer thoughts, much better memory. So that was really, really, really cool. And all it takes is 1 to 2 drops, and I just massaged it on the top of his scalp and at the base of his skull. And I saw some great help and support in his specific condition. So that's something that can be very, very helpful. Gamma music. Okay. What is gamma music? It's music that is in the 40 hertz frequency or 40 hertz range. So if you were thinking about what gamma music is, a lot of time it's going to be what is consistent with more yoga music. Or if you think about that type of meditation music, that's the type of frequency that's been shown to be extremely helpful in creating great effects within your brain. And even if you do this for just 15 minutes, 10 minutes a day, maybe as you're waking up, maybe as you're praying, meditating, whatever you do, this can be helpful in creating a good, stable situation for your brain. Excuse me. So here is the research back in 2019, 2016, 2016. They've shown that exposing, again, why do they use mice? Mice actually it's interesting. They're kind of similar to us in some ways. For instance, their lungs are very similar to us. Brain and their brains are similar to our brains, even though they're obviously much smaller. But what happens, excuse me, when you use this type of music, again, amyloid plaques, that's the neurofibrillary tangles that we're talking about, the amyloid plaques, those decrease. So it's also, you can see that it also protects the hippocampus, which is the main part that we said decreases in size when you have Alzheimer's or cognitive decline, okay? The last one I'm going to talk about is for this specific topic is sleep. So when you sleep, the plaque that's built up that we've been talking about, it actually has a chance to be cleaned out and decreased when you sleep. So my suggestion is try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I'm more of a 6.5, 7 hour person myself, but I recommend trying to get 7 to 9 hours at a regular sleep time. So try and schedule it for yourself. Maybe it's 10:30, maybe it's 11, maybe it's 9, whatever's best for you. But try to shoot for the kind of the same time, because studies have shown that you actually get deeper and better sleep when you have it at that certain time. But I would recommend making sure that you get good restorative sleep, because that's when that plaque buildup that we're talking about is actually going to be pushed out of the brain and cleaned out. So you need to get good sleep. Give yourself a chance to recharge. Okay, so that is for our Alzheimer's, but I want to talk a little bit about ADHD, and I want to tell you a personal story, because that's not a picture of me, but it very well could have been. When I was a kid, I was extremely distracted in school. I had a really rough time trying to stay on task. In fact, my teacher in first grade, she let me stand up the whole year. I had my own little desk on the side, my own little island, and she let me stand up. And so I really feel for people who have ADHD, and I have dealt with this my whole life, so I understand. But I want to talk about ways that you can help support either yourself or your loved ones with this specific condition. So what is ADHD? Let's just define it, what it is. So it is a persistent difficulty of maintaining attention or concentration. And then the HD is the hyperactive part, right? So they used to call it ADD, attention deficit disorder, but they added the H because they found so often that children who suffer with ADHD often have this hyperactive side of them. So I dealt with this, like I said, and here's the unfortunate reality is that it's increasing. The incidence of ADHD is increasing. Over the last 20 years, it's increased to 10%. And now this is interesting. That's over kids from age 2 to 17. Now, if you look at your teenage kids, if you're looking at your like 13 to 17-year-old kids, the rate of ADHD within those kids is about 18%. It's much higher. So what can we do to be able to help them? This is how we can help. One of the things I want to point out, this is a little bit of research for you. These are 2 studies. These are both meta-analyses, meaning they took a large data set, a really large data set, and they found that there are racial differences when it comes to what you have, your chances of having ADHD. So African Americans have the highest at 12.8, whites at 12, Hispanics at 6. It goes down from there. But here's the thing. I think it has way less to do with how you're born, with whatever your genes are, and has a whole lot more to do with your eating habits. So these are uh, articles, two different sources. Okay, so the one on the left says yes, there are differences between excuse me, differences between different races. The one on the right shows, this is actually, HEI is Healthy Eating Index. This was done by a US group, a US government group, and they actually rated the level of health of each of the different races. And they're tracking this to try and see if they could help promote different health outcomes in these groups. But what I think is very fascinating, if you look at our Black population, 12.8, look at their, so a perfect score would be 100. If you look on that far right side, they're at 50.82, okay? So not super healthy. Look at the next group down, American white children, 12% have are diagnosed with ADHD. And if you look at the white population, they're the next group down as far as healthy eating, HEI. If you look at Hispanics, they're the next group down. You know what's very interesting? Look at the most healthy group in this whole sample. It's Asians, and Asians weren't even listed as a group to track ADHD in this this other article, which I thought was fascinating. They didn't even point out Asians, because I think it's probably because I've seen other data that says it's less than 6% of Asian children, US born Asian kids that have ADHD. What I'm trying to do is draw a correlation here. This is not causation, but this is an interesting correlation. It looks to me like the more healthy your diet, the less likely you are to have ADHD. And I'm going to go into a couple of other articles that's going to prove that point a little bit more. Now, unfortunately, the response to how we deal with this in the United States is oftentimes the pharmaceutical solution. What happens is a child goes to first grade, second grade, whatever, or middle school, is acting up. The teacher says, I don't like how this kid is acting. And what happens? They're prescribed a medication. Why did I put methamphetamine on this slide? Well, most people don't know, but amphetamines are Strattera. So Strattera is a medication, one of the most commonly prescribed medications for ADHD. Many people are familiar with Ritalin. Strattera is another one that is very, very common. This is the formation. This is the molecular shape of an amphetamine. This is what your kids are using for ADHD. It's an upper, and I have an issue with this because I was on Strattera actually in college, and I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I'm having a hard time concentrating. I'm going to use medication. Now, here's the deal. I'm not anti-medication in all cases. I'm very much pro change what you can change first, and then see what you need to do after that. That's where I'm at. I really am not. If this is something that helps you after you've tried other things and actually made the changes, then great. Then go ahead and use it. But I will tell you from my own experience, I got very jittery. I got very closed down. I would feel kind of a high and a very extreme focus. And then about, excuse me, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would shut down. I couldn't talk to anyone. I was very quiet, kept to myself, which is not me. You could tell it's after 3 o'clock now, and I'm very comfortable talking, but I could not, I felt like my tongue was stuck in the back of my throat. So I'm, like I said, very much in favor of trying to do things without having to go to medications first. So let's talk about 3 things that you can do to be able to help support yourself or your family or friends with people who might have ADHD. So exercise is our first, nutrition, supplements. Look, this is very similar to what we had you'll notice in Alzheimer's, again, this is a brain condition. We're trying to help clean out the brain. And when we do these things, we find that it's extremely helpful. Let's start out with exercise. This is a little fun joke for you. If you've noticed, a lot of kids aren't playing outside anymore. A lot of kids want to play sports inside. They'll play FIFA, they'll play Madden, they'll play whatever. They'll play video games. And this cannot be the case if you want to help your child with ADHD, or like, again, I said, or yourself with ADHD. You need to be exercising on a regular basis. This was a meta-analysis. Again, when I say meta-analysis, what it means is that they took a huge number of studies. In this case, I think it was over 200 studies, and they combined all of the data in it and said, what trends do we see? And what they found with this meta-analysis for tracking exercise and ADHD was that you can improve attention, executive function, and motor skills with children with ADHD when they are exercising. And so physical exercise, I cannot stress enough. You need to get your kids outside, working out, grandkids, whatever. You need to get them working out and moving their bodies. When schools are prone to say, hey, we don't want to have a recess, that's going to really be detrimental to a child with ADHD. So you need to find opportunities for your child to be working out and exercising. Okay. Here's some more research. This was, again, another meta-analysis. They found that a diet high in refined sugars and saturated fats can increase the ADHD risk. Okay. And that by having fruits, vegetables, that protects against ADHD. I will tell you this from personal experience. When I decided to not do medication anymore, I started changing my diet. I cut out refined sugar. I haven't eaten refined sugar in 16 years now, maybe, 16 years. And it helped me remarkably. I switched over only to fruits and vegetables, and that is not fruit juices. That's fruits and vegetables, the whole fruit, right? And I found a huge difference in my ability to be able to concentrate and to think. Now, that being said, do I feel like my ADHD is as abated or controlled as when I was on medications? No. When I was on a medication, I had this tunnel vision where I could focus incredibly, incredibly well. But it also had this negative effect on my personality, which I wasn't willing to give up. So please, please, please change your diet. I'm going to give you some ideas about things that you need to change. Refined sugars. So no refined sugars. I would limit or eliminate breads, specifically your bleached white flour breads. If you want to do something that's like a millet or something that's not as that doesn't have gluten in it, then yes, you can do that. I still wouldn't recommend it as much. Pastas, they're delicious, aren't they? But again, it's not going to help the brain. It's going to be very detrimental to the brain because it converts to sugar very quickly. Same with bread. So these things are things you want to try to avoid. Sodas, that again, that's going to be something that you want to try to avoid. Fruit juices, right? All right. Now, what types of things should we already saw in that previous research article. Fruits and vegetables are fantastic. Also, if you look at these types of fats that I have on here, you have olive oil, fish, avocado, and eggs. These are fantastic. You need to put your child on, you have to put him or her on more fats. They have to be eating more fats. Your brain, why do we want more fats in the body? Your brain is made up of fat, 70% fat. So you need to have fats to fuel it. So these are three critical things. Not just olive oil, but obviously you could eat the whole olive, and that can be very, very helpful to your body too. Okay. All right. These are three things that you can also use. Intune is my daily oil that I use. This is something, and I want you to now pull out, if you have your little experience packet, pull that out. I'm going to have you pull it out, and I'm going to actually move this, and we're going to see if we can, if you have it, you're more than welcome to pull that out, and you can smell that, but I'm actually going to show you how to use it too. So it comes in a nice roll-on like this, right? But The one that you have obviously is in a little packet. I use this every day. I go talk across the top of my head. I put it right here on my temples. I put it at the back of my head. I rub that in, and I usually do that before I get going in the morning. I put it right there, and I've found it to be super, super helpful. One of the constituents in it, it has patchouli, it's got frankincense, it's got sandalwood. All of these have very calming effects, but also the frankincense, which we talked about previously, is very, very helpful for brain health. So that's something I use every day. Now, if you have a child, you could use this one. It's a roll-on called Thinker, and the Thinker can be used to be able to help support if you have a small child, and it has oils in it that are very, very helpful to neuronal activity and health. They also have a omega oil for kids, IQ Omega. This is a great one that we use with our son. He's starting to show signs that he is kind of like his dad, which is it's a good thing. I'm glad that he doesn't fall too far from the tree. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, but he is probably going to deal with some ADHD also. So feeding his brain with healthy fats early on is what we do, not just in our foods, but also we do this as a supplement for him every day. So those are the things that I use. I just wanted to, if you need to take a picture of that, you can take a picture of that. And then this is the supplements that we talked about for helping to sharpen our memory. So yeah, if you want to take a picture of that, if those are things that you need to talk about, or you can even talk to the person who invited you, and you can ask them questions.